Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again Ed Photog Jay the Great, Jeremy Smith. Decided I'd do a little bit something different today. I am still waiting to get my hands on the D800. Well, I've had my hands on it, some, but not enough yet. And it seems like everyone that already has theirs is pretty eager about hanging on to it right now. So until I get more time with that, I decided I would do something a little bit different today. Today I wanted to talk about some lenses, because what good is the nicest camera in the world if you don't have a nice lens to put on the front of it? Something that people ask me a lot is, people ask me a lot about the different costs in lenses that you see. You start out with something basic like, say for example, this 55 to 200 Nikon lens here. And yeah, by the way, I am going to use Nikon lenses for this just because I'm a Nikon user, but you will find that most of the manufacturers try to stay pretty close to the same lenses, feature-wise and also focal length-wise. But anyway, since I'm a Nikon user, we're going to be talking about Nikon lenses, but if you shoot Canon or Sony, you will see that there are some comparable lenses that, that kind of match up with the ones I'm going to be talking about today. But anyways, if you start out with something basic, like say for example this 55 to 200, which is like $250 US, and then then there's other lenses, like say for example something like the 70 to 200 2.8, that's $2,400 US, and people ask me all the time, why in the world is this lens $2,400 and this lens is only like $250? This is like a tenth of the price. Why is this one so much more? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to reposition the camera and we're going to take a closer look at both these lenses. Okay, taking a closer look at both of these lenses, we have the 55 to 200 here, and we have the 70 to 200 on this side. Both of these lenses cover very close to the same focal length. They both end at 200 millimeters. So of course anytime you go to a higher focal length number, you basically have more zoom out. Smaller number means that you have a wider angle of view. So they both end in the exact same spot. They both end at 200 millimeters. The 55 to 200 is slightly wider because it starts at 55 as opposed to 70. But with that slight difference, they're pretty much going to be about the same amount of zoom. Both of these lenses were pretty much used for the same thing. They're not the longest telephoto lenses that they don't give you the most zoom out, but they kind of complement the lens that your camera comes with. So anytime you get ready to do like a closer headshot of someone, or if you're doing any type of outdoor sports or anything like that, that's where both of these are going to come in. The biggest difference between these two lenses is how much light they let in. This lens right here, the 55 to 200, is what's called a variable aperture lens. Just a fancy way of saying that depending on where you have it zoomed, if you zoom all the way out with it, you can't let in the same amount of light as you can whenever you're at the wider end. So this lens here, you can get down to an f-stop of f4 if you're at 55, but if you zoom all the way out to 200, you can only go to 5.6, and of course basically that lower f number just means more light. The 70 to 200 is quite the opposite in that area, and it's what they call a constant aperture lens. It has an f-stop of 2.8, and you can actually go down to 2.8 even if you're all the way out at 200. Doesn't matter where you are in the zoom range on the lens, you can go throughout the entire range and still go down to the low number of 2.8. Between 2.8 and 5.6, you're talking about 2 stops difference in light. So basically, that's like a difference of say ISO 400 and ISO 1600. So yeah, it's a huge difference in terms of light gathering. And as we all know, photography is all about light. That's actually going to be the #1 reason why this lens is more expensive, because anytime you have a lens that lets in more light, you end up with a more complicated optical design. There has to be more glass inside this lens to correct for smaller variances in the light. Anyways, without getting too complicated, that's kind of the gist of it. So that's the number one reason why these are going to be why this is so much more expensive. The other difference is, of course, build quality. No one wants to spend this kind of money on a lens and have it fall apart. Now, something like the 55-200 is still going to be pretty decently put together for day-to-day use, but if I talk about it from a professional mindset, I refer to it as being plastic fantastic, you know. So anyways, but if we take a look at the rear of the lens, I'm going to take the rear caps off both these. We'll take a look at both these here. I'm going to hold them down where you can see. Both of these lenses, while it's of course the same Nikon F mount, the 55-200 you'll notice is a plastic mount. This lens right here, the 70-200, is a metal mount. What's not as easy for you to see though, there's also a little gasket back here on the 70-200 lens that helps keep dust and moisture out of the camera body. And of course the 55-200 doesn't have that at all. So definitely a big difference there. Under professional use and things like that, you're going to be changing lenses a lot more. And this lens right here is simply not going to hold up whenever you're at an event or wedding, whatever the case may be, and you're changing lenses constantly. This is a plastic mount, so definitely not going to hold up in the long run. This is going to be much more durable. The other difference in build is the fact that the 70-200, the outer barrel of the lens is made entirely of magnesium alloy, just like the higher end Nikon bodies. So much more durable there. Kind of hard to convey that in a video, but if I just set that on the table compared to this, I mean, you can kind of tell. So that's going to be the other difference. There's also seals between all the rings on this lens, as you'll notice. Well, actually you can't really see it, but they are there. So that's one thing that helps too. The other thing is, actually I don't need to take that off again. The other thing that's going to be a difference is the fact that the 70-200 is an internally zooming and focusing lens, whereas the 55-200 is not. So basically, if I zoom this lens, the 55-200 here, you can see that the barrel extends in and out. On the 70-200, if I do the same thing here, that doesn't happen because that entire action happens inside the lens itself. So that's another thing that's going to help the lens stay sealed and protected. And that's basically it. Chances are, unless you're shooting in very, very low light indoor conditions, for any type of sports or anything like that, that's going to be the main use for a lens like this. The 70-200 is also a very, very good lens for portraits, and we'll cover more of that later on. If anyone has any questions, definitely write me in the comments down below. I am continuing to make more videos, and we are going to be taking a look at some specific lenses in detail very soon. But until then, this is Photog J the Great, Jeremy Smith, signing off.